everyone, good Thursday evening. It's 21 News Chief Meteorologist Eric Wilhelm here with the video we call Weather for Weather Geeks, the nerdiest weather video you're going to find anywhere for our region. Not a lot to talk about in terms of active weather over the next few days, but plenty of interesting things to discuss anyway this evening. And on Thursdays, we get an update from the NOAA Drought Monitor. And this has undergone some fairly rapid changes over the last couple of weeks. We had pretty dry conditions early this spring, March and April, especially in the northern part of our viewing area. But notice over the last couple of weeks how the moderate drought designation has shrunk and shrunk and shrunk, and now we pretty much have no areas in our television viewing area still in the moderate drought designation, just some abnormally dry real estate in eastern parts of Trumbull County and Mercer County, but even there, it's been quite a bit wetter, of course, in recent days. We had locally up to a couple of inches worth of rain on Sunday, pretty much easing any minor drought concerns we had earlier on this spring. Let's talk about the severe weather season or lack thereof. Now we're about halfway through the month of May, and we're getting into prime severe weather season in our region. Typically, I think of it as kind of the end of May and early June, but so far it's been a very quiet season. In the month of May, we typically see about 5 days with thunderstorms in our part of the state. When we look at the region as a whole, the tornado risk in the month of May, while it's of course highest in the middle of the country usually, where it's also been very quiet, we see an uptick in the number of tornadoes usually in the lower and mid-Ohio valleys during the month of May, and tornadic activity a little more historically likely around here around Memorial Day and heading into the month of June. When we look at the state of Ohio and the combined number of severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings that we've had so far this year through today's date, just a minuscule number. Now, of course, there's a lot of variation from year to year. 2011, 10 years ago, was a big year with 278 through today's date. But through the 13th of May this year, only 10 severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings when you combine them in the whole state of Ohio. The fewest we've had through today's date since 1990. I think the number in 1990 was only 5 through today's date, so very quiet that year. But still only 10. Last year we had 151 through today's date. So it just goes to show you how quiet it has been, and it continues to be quiet across the lower 48 states this evening. A couple of storms might produce a couple of warnings out in Nebraska this evening. That's about it. The severe weather risk on Friday will again be pretty low. Front range of the Rockies, high plains states, low-end risk of some hail and wind-producing storms, and kind of the same idea as we start the weekend on Saturday. It'll be pretty much confined to the high plains in terms of the severe weather risk. All right, last evening we talked to you about how there would be some planets visible in the western sky after sunset. Pretty hard to see because the moon was so thin and low in the sky, but it was dancing with Venus very low in the sky about 9 o'clock last evening. Now, the moon is separated from Venus. The moon is also a day older now, and so while it's still a very thin crescent, it'll be a little bit easier to spot in the sky this evening. A little higher in the sky around 9 p.m., a little bit more of that crescent showing, and actually it will be paired up fairly closely with a planet that's usually very hard to spot. That is Mercury. I mentioned this last evening, but this is the best week of the year to check out the planet Mercury, the closest planet to the sun. Usually Mercury, because of its proximity to the sun in our sky, it's very hard to see. Usually it's setting as the sun is setting. But this week is the week in which Mercury is at what we call opposition in the astronomical community, and that means it's at its farthest point in our sky from the sun, the farthest point it gets from the sun all year. So it can be seen with the naked eye, especially, again, right around 8:45 to 9 or so. Once it gets a little bit dark enough, and it'll be to the right of that thin crescent moon in the western sky this evening. All right, quiet weather in the next couple of days, much like the last couple of days. We'll start out bright and sunny Friday. We'll have a buildup of cumulus clouds in the afternoon. Saturday featuring more of the same, the sunnier half of the day, the morning, but we'll stay dry all day. I think we're also dry on Sunday. Showers are likely to stay off to our south. Temperatures will be in the upper 60s for the next few days. That's a few degrees below average. Our average high goes from 70 to 72 over the next 10 days. It'll be just a little bit below that through Monday, but starting middle of next week, at least a few days worth of pretty warm weather. I now have some upper 70s to around 80 in the forecast for the second half of next week. As I have been mentioning this week, we are now done with the frost and freeze threat for the season. Now tonight, the coldest sheltered valleys might get down to 35 or 36 at the last minute, but I doubt that produces much in the way of any sort of impactful frost. You know, sunrise is almost at 6 a.m. now, so it gets harder and harder, of course, as we get deeper into May to have a night that's long enough to produce widespread frosts. One of the reasons why frosts become less and less likely, typically, as we head through May. So, something that can't totally be ruled out in the coldest sheltered valleys tonight, but otherwise, we're in the clear now. It'll be a good weekend to start that garden with those afternoon temperatures in the upper 60s. Thanks for checking out Weather for Weather Geeks tonight, and enjoy the rest of your Thursday night.